War Eagle War Report family, it's your boy C-Dub. We had a great weekend of recruiting this weekend, guys. We'll talk about how that went. Also, we got to talk about it, but Auburn falls to Memphis. Tough game, neutral site. We'll discuss that and more. The latest edition of the Weekend Tailgate.
You are now listening to a War Report Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by
Athletic Architect.
It's your boy, I Jones. Be Will, C-Dog, Mike G. Get ready, sit on back as we bring you the War Report Weekend Tailgate.
War Eagle, everyone. Happy Sunday. I'm joined by Ike Jones, B. Will down below. Mike G is out. Keep him in your prayers. He's been a little challenged this past week, so we hope for him to return shortly. But you are watching the Weekend Tailgate, brought to you by show sponsor Athletic Architects. Please be sure to go to buildthehouse.com, especially if you're a student athlete or related to a student athlete or just looking to get your LLC off the ground. We appreciate Athletic Architects for being a sponsor of the Weekend Tailgate as well as a partner with the War Rapport. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us. You being here is support enough, but if you want to continue to support us, do the necessary and share this content on social media so people can find this content and join in on the discussion. Also, while you're here, smash that like button to help us with our engagement, and please subscribe if you're new to the channel. We also offer you an opportunity to become a paid member of the War Report. There's a lot of perks with that. Ike Jones can run that down for you.
Paying to be a member of the War Report is like doing your civic duty. Think of it like, I don't know, jury duty, except awesome. And you pay for it.
I don't know if that's
It's a terrible pitch. It doesn't matter. Still do it because you love us and we love y'all, and we want to share the love with you. And the more that we have members, the more love we can share. I don't even know if that's a good pitch. It doesn't matter. I want y'all to do it anyway. Come on board, be a member of the War Report. $5.99 gets you to patron level. Got plenty of film to get to you guys soon here. If you are a member and you want to give someone else, it's the holidays, right? So gift a membership of the War Report to somebody who's a member of the subscribed family, but not the member family. They get the first month on you. Go ahead and make that happen right now. Right now. All right, we're going to encapsulate the tears of Auburn fans in a mug, and hopefully it turns to cheer once you put them into this mug. Everybody who's a little salty about our first loss as a basketball team this season, don't worry, we bring some holiday cheer to you in the form of a War Report mug sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Hashtag get your weight up right now in the live chat. We'll do that drawing later on in the show, but you have to be present to win. We thank everybody for doing that. But again, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services sponsoring this. Hashtag get your weight up for the entry to possibly get the best mug that has ever contained anything in life, the War Report mug.
Guys, let's get into it. We had a big weekend we had visitors starting in the middle of the week. Guys in the transfer portal came to visit. Rob Thomas was one of the big names that was mentioned this week. We had some high school kids come in this weekend, as well as portal guys come in, and it landed in two flips. We flipped two guys. The first guy is offensive tackle Tyler Johnson, 4-star offensive tackle recruit out of, and I had the name of this. I think it's Nacogdoches, Central out of Louisiana.
I'm gonna go with whatever you say.
Okay. Appreciate
I'm not gonna say it.
6'7", 302 pounds of the 2023 class. He's the 16th recruit in the state of Louisiana, 25th at his position nationally. Recent guy that we flipped from Texas Tech. A little bit of information on this guy. He actually attended Big Cat a few months back, but was never offered. Hugh Freeze staff circled back around, spun the block with this kid, offered him, and he is now committed. I think this is the guy who said he's 200% committed to the University
200%.
of Auburn.
200%. Yeah.
I guess we the real UA, I guess, if we University of Auburn, but
Hey.
we'll take it. We will take it. Shortly after he announced, actually what happened, I believe it may have been yesterday, but Colton Hood, who's actually the nephew of former Auburn player, NFL player Roderick Hood, decommitted from Michigan State. He is a 3-star cornerback out of Eagles Landing Christian in Georgia. You see his numbers there, 75th player, and I believe that's in Georgia. But 78th at position, and he recently decommitted from Michigan State and is now expected to be an Auburn Tiger. So we had 2 flips over the weekend from some high schoolers, some good visits from guys out of the transfer portal. You know, one of the things that I'll say this before I get you guys' take on it is we've been very slow to kind of comment on recruiting because for us, we can really assess how this staff is doing once guys sign their name. But,
Right.
and I think that's one of the reasons why we didn't panic with the previous staff when things appear to be going too slow or whatnot. The recruiting classes wasn't bad under Harsin, but relative to what everyone else in the conference was doing, we was near the bottom.
Yeah.
So it was difficult to really be excited about the direction recruiting was going. But it seems under this staff, just from the moment I think Hugh Freeze has been our head coach for almost 2 weeks now. And hearing reports of him on the road, making contact with families, visiting people, it's about as much as I heard Harsin on the road, really being in recruits' homes and really being aggressive recruiting. So the optics and what we're hearing has to be largely positive, even though we tend to temper our expectations until signing day. But I want to hear you guys' thoughts on just what's the vibe like in terms of Auburn and recruiting and what the staff appears to be doing in such a short span of time. I'll start with you, B.
Well, the Colton Hood pickup is kind of like, why wasn't that happening before? His uncle was here. His uncle was one of the Tuberville guys. So you come in unheralded, you leave out an NFL prospect, and went on to have a really good NFL career. I think he signed as an undrafted free agent with the Eagles. I remember distinctly him returning kicks in that Super Bowl that the Eagles played against the Patriots, where they got wiped off the face of the map. But he parlayed that into a really good contract, I think, with another team. I can't remember the other team, but that's the success story that he was. And I want to know, why wasn't he coming this way anyway? What was the staff not on him? Like Zach Etheridge is the DB's coach, right? So was he recruiting him before, but he got some new life or some new leeway to go after some different guys now that Hugh Freeze is a coach? I don't know how we don't get legacy guys in here. Like that always baffles me, especially legacy guys from a time where the person who they're related to had a really good experience here, where their playing career did wonders for them, and they were able to do more than just have a college career and call it a day. So I'm glad he's on board. Again, that was kind of like come on, where we at? And I always think, and I don't know how we'll have to do some research on this. When guys have a uncle or a dad who was a really good player, I feel like they have a leg up on playing the position if they play the same position, because you've been getting tutelage from somebody who we know can ball. So you should have an advantage, especially younger. But and I have no, I don't care that this guy is a 3-star. I know people kind of get, oh, he's a 3-star. Like I don't care. Roger McGreer was a 3-star. I think DJ James was a 3-star. He wasn't even a star. He was a transfer, and nobody was wooting and hollering when he came in the transfer portal. And he's the best corner on the team and probably top 3 corners in the conference. So the accolades as far as star rating, I don't care. You got somebody you think is a baller, it's a good pickup. The offensive tackle, I have no idea if offensive tackles are good or bad. I do not know. We can look at star ratings all day, but then I can look over at Bama and see they've had the worst offensive line 2-year run that they've had since Saban took over. And I go, I don't really know what to make of star ratings. What I can trust more than that is, do the offense and the offensive line coach mesh together? See, we thought that Will Friend was a hack until Brian Harsin left. And then turns out, the offensive line can move people when the scheme marries the personnel and along with the guy calling plays. So we have to wait and see whether or not this is a win as far as offensive tackle. We know we need bodies there, though. That's why this is the biggest win. Because even if you've got, hey, I think we've got five-star offensive linemen. All right, cool. Let's put them on the field. Turns out you got a terrible gap at left guard and your left tackle's not good. So those ratings didn't mean much. Put them on the field. And if you do miss, you've got another body you can put in there and say, you know what? I think you might be a better fit. So really, we've got to go quality and quantity at offensive line. So the rating services, who knows? I don't know. I don't know if 4 stars is a big get. I don't care if we have some 2-star offensive linemen. Do the coaches see something that make them good for the scheme and the fit of what we're trying to do? If so, great. We need more of this. It can't be all high school. I'm glad we're getting high school prospects. That means they'll be sitting in the chamber for next season when things really get moving. But the thing we need most is bodies, and we've got to start hitting this transfer portal hard for these offensive linemen because we need somebody who is ready right now. But great pickups, but hopefully just the beginning.
Thoughts, Ike?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't have said that much better. I think that we specifically to the point of offensive line, we need bodies. You want bodies, and then you want to be able to have quality competition, right? So you want to make sure that even if you feel good about who you have in a Jeremiah Wright, if somebody can come in there and compete with him, put him out there. Let's see what happens, right? We talk about how confident we feel in Robbie's athletic ability and his potential under this new coaching staff. I'm still not mad if they go out there and try to find a new quarterback, not because I'm not happy with Robbie Ashford, but because I want Robbie Ashford to get pushed in the quarterback competition because I think he's a competitive guy. So you put him out there and somebody's pushing him for starting snaps, he's going to go out there and that's going to raise his level even more. And if he doesn't raise his level, then we're going to have another guy ready to go, right? Same thing for the running back position. I love everybody in our running back room. Am I upset if we sign another running back? No, because somebody's got to win that competition. If you beat out Jarquez Hunter for snaps, you better be damn good. So I'm not mad at competing in any spot. Wide receiver, same thing. I feel Camden Brown, I think, is going to be an absolute beast. Amari Kelly looks like he's going to be a beast. Jay Fair is probably the most untapped talent in the slot that we have out there. I just like Jay Fair because he's a really smart player. And if you've seen me watch the film, I kind of point out some things he does. He's just a really smart football player. And he had a little more wiggle than I thought he had. I thought he was kind of like a straight line guy. I was like, oh, wait a minute. He might. Anyway, I don't want to get stuck on nobody. Malcolm Johnson Jr., we've been high on him since there are guys in this wide receiver room. Am I mad at us going and getting another quality receiver to come compete? Nope. Not at all. Coy Moore would tell you himself he thinks he should be 1,000-yard receiver every season. Keep putting guys in there that make those type of guys say, you're not taking my snaps. If that means I got to block more, then I'm going to step up my ability to block because you're not pulling me off the field. Right? I need all of that to start happening at Auburn University. Be 200% committed to getting playing time as well, not just getting your offer in, right? So I want to see all of that start to happen so that the competition level of spring translates to something better in the fall. Because I feel like we had good competition, but amongst people who weren't playing at a high level last spring. And therefore the results in the fall, you got punched in the mouth and you was like, man, I was killing in practice. Well, you was killing against a dude who kind of wasn't all that. Right. So we need to see it start to, I'm going to say this over and over again. We have to start raising the talent floor in our rooms so that the lowest you could possibly get is good. And we can reach for the greatness that some people have the potential to be able to go and get, especially when injuries start happening or attrition from whatever reason. So hopefully we'll continue to do that.
Sidebar, gentlemen. Popeye says Nakatoshish. Google says Nakatish. That's what I should have said. It was Nakatish.
We got to go with the locals, though. The locals know. The locals know.
Maybe.
I mean, is he local? Just because his name is Popeye don't mean he's from Louisiana.
No, I'm not
I'm
saying he
joking.
was,
I'm
but
just-
usually,
I'm
yeah.
I
Now
like
you
what
got
did
me
there.
imagining
I like
like
what you did
Popeye
there.
the Sailor.
I like what
No, I'm talking about the
just like
restaurant.
Lil Wayne.
Yeah, the chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
I think it's pronounced Nacogdoches.
Nacogdoches.
You know what? I'm not gonna ever say it. How about that? Until I hear somebody from there. Because here's the thing: like you look at like stuff like Louisville, right?
Louisville.
If you're not from the area and you look at it's like Louisville, Louisville, Louisville. How do you pronounce it? But somebody from the area will tell you this is how it's supposed to be pronounced. I don't know. Let just somebody from there go on Google and you use your voice for the Google thing, and then I'll believe it. I don't want to hear the translation that some AI generated somewhere. So.
You know what's wild is going somewhere
It's better than what I would do though.
Yeah,
on a road trip and then putting the directions in to come back home to Auburn, and they put
man, they be pronouncing them streets.
Opelika.
Boy, they be pronouncing that junk so
Alabama.
awful, bro.
Like y'all don't know nothing. Okay, all right.
Right.
They be pronouncing. They be jacking up some street names and some city names, bro. That junk is funny to me
no
every
one's
time.
business. Like no one's business. Lawrence Robinson says, hopefully we get 3 to 4 O linemen from the portal. B, you talked about quantity and quality. I think the quantity is probably going to have to come from your high school, and your quantity is going to have to come out of the portal. Auburn actually hosted the number 2 JUCO offensive tackle, Isaiah. I think his name is Jada out of Charlotte, O lineman. So how many are you hoping to get from the portal? We already got 3 committed out of high school. I mentioned Tyler Johnson, who joins Clay Whedon and Braden Joyner. But how many, because I think you were out when me and Ike talked about this last week, how many O linemen do you think of quality that we need to grab from the portal?
C-Web just said it, and that's what I think. I think we need 2 JUCOs ready to go, prospects that can come in and play right now. There'll be a scheme adjustment for anybody. So you need people who won't have to physically get up to speed, because mentally, I think getting up to speed with a completely different offense is enough of a challenge, assuming that they get here in spring, because we need, I'm gonna say 2 JUCOs. We need 2 completely not out of high school offensive linemen. I don't think they have to be JUCOs though. If you at least 1 transfer, at least 2 JUCOs, at least 3 very experienced, not out of high school offensive linemen, but that can get here in the spring. And JUCO may take some of that off the board for 1 or 2 of those guys, because some of them have to graduate before they can actually move on. So hopefully we can get 3 experienced offensive linemen that are not out of high school, and any combination of JUCO and transfer, I think will do that. At least 1 more high school offensive lineman. So we'd be looking at a total haul of 7 players in the cycle. We do have a couple here. Like we've got 1 or 2 here. Jeremy Wright's going to be here. Eston Harris is still going to be here. We got 1 or 2 more. Tate Johnson hopefully will be better and ready to play again next season. So we've got a few, but I think we need at least 7 offensive linemen to be on coming in the offseason before we get to the 2023 season.
See a comment here from Zach while we're on the subject. He still feels that we can flip Connor Orr. I believe that was a kid who appeared to be, he was between Auburn and Georgia, and then out of left field, Miami came through and got him to commit to them. So he still feels confident or feels good about Connor Orr. Corey Weber comes back and says, hope so. And also DJ Chester, who is, I believe is committed to LSU. He was a guy who was in our current cycle that Auburn was looking to land as well. Guys, let's talk about some of the, well, let me grab the super chat real quick from Don L. He says, if necessary in getting who Freeze wants at OCDC, are you good with waiting to late January after the NFL playoffs to make the hire?
Okay, so I read, I can't remember which service. If I remembered, I would actually give them credit, but saying that the holdup with the possibility of Chris Kiffin as a defensive coordinator was that he's in the NFL and he would need to finish his season. I don't know what team he's with, and I don't know if that Cleveland. So there's a good chance they would not make the playoff. If they win out, they could be
mathematically eliminated from the playoffs today.
Oh, okay. So
could be. Yes, it depends on the convergence of stuff, but it's possible.
Right. So that means you've got 3 weeks. That means you've got a portal cycle that will have closed by the time he's hired. You got early signing day that would have concluded by the time he's hired. It's not that you can't do work outside of that. Your position coaches are in place. Rob is still there. I'm guessing operating as the linebackers coach and recruiter. You got your defensive line coach who's been hired. Zach Etheridge and Wes McGriff are still there. So every level of your defense, you've got position coaches in place. That should make it easier. And maybe that's why he went ahead and filled those positions to say, hey, here's who you would be reporting to. Here's who would be your position coach. Yeah, let those guys recruit and tell the recruits that you're going to like the scheme. I promise you're going to like the scheme, but I'm who you're going to work with. And that's easier sell than not having any position coaches, but having a DC. Actually, I think if you're going to be without one or the other, being without the DC makes a little more sense, because who those guys are going to interact with and have to deal with on a day-to-day basis is more important than the overall scheme, I think. So that's not a terrible way to do it. I think it means a lot more to go ahead and get that staff complete on defense, though, man. It does. It matters. I'm saying that the defensive overall scheme isn't as important as who you're going to report to. It's still important, though. It's like 60-40. It's not more important than who you're going to report to, but it's still important. So they want to know if I'm going to be playing outside linebacker, but you primarily want me just rushing the passer because I want to do that. So if I'm an edge player, I wouldn't commit until I know who the defensive coordinator is. Secondary is your secondary, man. You're going to play some zone. You're going to play some man. Whether or not you play either one, if you're productive back there, you're going to go to the league. It's not unusual. Secondary is a position where, look, you can shine on a terrible team. What's the guy name? Was it J.C. Horn over South Carolina?
Mm-hmm.
He came out of South Carolina. They weren't good. They beat us that year, and he was talking all that trash to, was it Seth Williams? He was talking trash to?
Yeah.
He got picked the first round. Why? Because he was a good corner. He was a good corner under T. Rob and under Muschamp. He had good position coach, a good head coach, a defensive head coach, but he was just locking dudes down. If you can do that, does it matter what the scheme is? No. So secondary, you can still recruit. Defensive line, maybe sort of. It matters if you want your big nose tackle in there. So if we're recruiting a guy who's just playing nose tackle, then maybe I want to see who the defensive coordinator is, if that's my position. But I still think you need the defensive coordinator for all things to be ideal. It's not mandatory, but if you want it to be ideal, then yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For me, I think that I don't think there's a need to wait till January to hire your OC when we know whose offense it is. Just my personal opinion. I don't think it's necessarily a sense of urgency as much as a defensive coordinator, but I don't see you waiting to pull someone out of the NFL just to run Hugh Freeze's offense or put together the game plans or whatever the responsibilities of the OC is. Maybe it's a guy who's a QB coach. That could be something to that. But I don't know. I think if anyone's coming out of the NFL, I would think it would be DC, the defensive coordinator. But thoughts on that, Ike?
Yeah, I mean, listen, as long as there's a plan that is being executed and we're not just out here willing and being all free and, we'll see what happens. That I don't want, right? So we can wait as long as there's a plan, and ultimately the question was, would I be good with waiting? I don't really have a choice on being good with waiting. Being frustrated about it ain't gonna make the process change. I'm be like, I want a defensive coordinator now, and Hugh Freeze is gonna see me tweet that and be like, wait. Ike Jones from the War Report said he wants us to hire somebody now, and then he just goes and he makes an offer. Right? Like, my level of frustration with it isn't going to do anything ultimately. So I just choose to not be frustrated because that doesn't actually change the outcome there. I just want whoever it is to be somebody who ultimately is going to be calling a good defensive game plan and not stuck in this is how we practice it. We're going to run it. And in the game, we out there getting knotted. And they just like, no, run it again.
So. Perfect, gentlemen.
Thomas Jones, appreciate the super sticker there. And your comment is in regards to the defensive coordinator hire, when is Mississippi State's bowl game? A reference to Zach Arnett. I saw Corey's comment saying that he's hearing that Auburn is no longer pursuing Arnett. But I do know that he was one of the coordinators that was being considered to possibly joining Hugh Freeze's staff. Thoughts on Arnett? I know he runs a 3-3-5, Ike. Your thoughts on him as a DC and what you observed? Me may watch maybe a game or two of his.
Yeah, I literally probably 2 games of his. So ours and one other one. I watched Mississippi State play. No, I take that back.
You watched the Egg Bowl, right?
I watched a little bit of that game. I watched a little bit of the Bama game, and I feel like it was one other game, Texas A&M maybe, that I watched of theirs. I think so. What I like about Zach Arnett, let's start with the good. What I like about Zach Arnett is he is exotic in the way that he brings pressure, right? Like he likes to mix up where the guy who's coming to bring pressure on the quarterback is going to be. And he is sound in the way that he teaches the stuff. What I dislike, I really don't like 3-3-5 schemes. Like just in principle, I'm not really a big fan of them. They can be good, but you have to have the perfect athletes to run it well.
Right.
Like, so Ole Miss runs a similar type of scheme. They don't have the athletes for it.
Right.
They're way too undersized, and what they want to try to do is be fast. Right. But like if they go against a team that can just bully them, then they're just getting pushed around with a bunch of fast dudes. Doesn't do you any good. You need guys that are big and fast to run a 3-3-5. And so your linebacker, your defensive line just needs to be like monstrous up front so that they don't get pushed around at all. And then you have to have a bunch of like tweener type athlete linebackers that can really be defensive backs if you need them to be, but are big enough to play downhill against the run. Like you need those type of guys in the linebacking core, because that's what allows you to be exotic. Because it's like, well, I don't know who's coming because this dude is big and this dude is big and this dude is fast and this dude is fast. He could be dropping back in coverage. He could you could do all kind of crazy stuff because you can disguise the coverages a little bit. So I don't really know what to make of Zach Arnett because I don't know what to make of the athletes that Mississippi State's defense runs out there. But I wouldn't be mad at the hire. I'll say that. I like his energy and his enthusiasm. Like I like my defensive coordinators to look like they could win a fight. And Zach Arnett looks like he could beat somebody up.
Yeah, he does have that look. He does have that look. I thought our last defensive coordinator was so nice. Seems like a really nice.
Schmetti does seem like a nice dude.
Seems like a really nice dude. And I defensively, I need you to be I need to be sort of scared of you.
Yeah, I want my defensive coordinator to look like somebody. We're going into another person's territory, and if we have to fight, this dude is gonna whoop somebody. I need him. Yeah, like
Schmetti seems like he'll talk everyone out of fighting. And
like, come on, guys.
Yeah,
there's no need for all of this.
Think about your future. You're right, Jeff. All right. Joe Cow says, I'm with that. I think Ike was saying I'm going to trust our head coach and staff to do the right thing with OC, DC, and recruiting until I have a reason, not a fear to be concerned.
Right.
I'm with you there. Also, too, I think what has to be talked about is the fact that Hugh Freeze has been going real hard in terms of recruiting. That's kind of the things we opened up with. And so in terms of the early signing period, there's a sense of urgency. I think in terms of filling out your staff, those guys, I think you mentioned this, Ike, last week as well. These guys are going to be here. Especially guys who are like your Kellys, who are just waiting to see what you got going on. Like Kelly's okay. I mean, he can either be at Colorado or Auburn. He's just waiting to see what Hugh Freeze figures out. And I think Hugh Freeze has been very methodical in his process, but at the same time, he understands I don't have a lot of time with these high school kids. So they have been the top priority in terms of recruiting, getting in the homes, getting them to come visit Auburn. He's got 2 weekends or now 1 weekend to convince these kids to do that before they make a decision. So obviously we see where his priorities are, rightfully so, but we'll trust to see how this plays out. So great comment, Joe.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, like at this point in time, so we're frequently telling people, I don't really try to overreact to the first 2 seasons of stuff, but I do notice patterns, right? Like there's a pattern of behavior that develops after year 2. You're like, okay, wait a minute, so, just as a, for instance, we weren't a good second half team under Brian Harsin for 2 years straight. That's a pattern of behavior. Like, I don't know what contributed to it, but it was clear the second half of games we were not going to play well. And at some point in time, you have to accept that that is who you are. And if I don't see an adjustment, then I know I'm just going to keep getting that. So if my team is not up by like 40 points at the end of the half, I am still scared coming out of halftime that we might blow this lead because we just haven't been playing well second halves of games, specifically offensively.
Right.
And so, you know, for Hugh Freeze, though he has had a past of things that he's done prior to Auburn, new environments always, because I couldn't tell you what Brian Harsin and his Boise teams did in second halves of games.
Right.
So I don't know what the pattern of behavior is for his teams are in that respect.
You know,
I really don't know what his recruiting prowess was before he got to Auburn. So I couldn't tell, but after a while, you're like, oh, that's kind of who he is.
That's who he is. Right. And that's the same with, I know I always bring it back to betting, but betting is a good way of figuring out, okay, because you're not watching every game. You bet games, but you can't watch every game. So what you do is you're watching the scoreboard, you're watching for stats, and you're looking for tendencies that tell me, how is this going to happen under this head coach going forward? And sure enough, you will see some consistent patterns eventually bear out. And you can see it over 2 years. Like, what's crazy is you brought Brian Harsin at Boise. The last memory I have of Boise before Brian Harsin left there was their comeback against Florida State when Willie Taggart was there. So it was Brockmeyer, whatever his name was. I'm like, man, they really came back that second half, which is why it was so wild that here we couldn't mount the second half comeback to save our lives while he was here. So some of it you have to figure out, okay, is it him here with these guys or is it just him overall? Because that is the thing. I do believe with all the perfect things in place, Gus Malzahn would be a better offensive guy than he had been his last few years here. But the problem was his scheme was limited by what the offensive line could not do, but he couldn't get the offensive lineman to make the difference. It's not that Gus is bad at offense. I don't think Gus is bad at offense. It got tired here because the key to it is being able to run on people at will. If you can't do that, it's not going to work. And if you don't have the offensive lineman, you can't do that. So yes,
and that don't mean to cut you off. Was actually, if you look at what the pattern was, there was two things in particular: inability to recruit offensive line and inability to identify a quarterback talent. That's really what sunk Gus Malzahn offensively. Right. You know, we talk about his scheme got tired, but to your point, B. Will, if he gets the right offensive line, we just bully everybody. It don't matter.
It don't matter. Yeah.
For sure. Good points, gentlemen. Listen, guys, you are watching the Weekend Tailgate, courtesy of our athletic architects. Please be sure to share this content, guys, on social media. Smash the like button while you're here. Get the likes up for us, guys. And if you're new to our channel, we need you to subscribe. That helps us out a ton. Let's take time to acknowledge our sponsors.
This edition of the War Report is made possible by our generous sponsors. AuburnSports.com. For news and notes on all things Auburn Sports, head over to AuburnSports.com. Athletic Architects. For young athletes looking to secure their financial futures, let Athletic Architects help you start to build your financial house. Head over to BuildTheHouse.com. And our giveaway sponsor, GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. If you want the best in the business at restaurant logistics, check out our friends at GWT2Energy.com.
As always, a big thank you to the sponsors of the War Report, and thank you to those of you who have decided to financially help the War Report continue to bring y'all this wonderful content, the best Auburn sports content out here on the interwebs. $5.99 per month gets you to the patron level. $3.99 allows you to be a supporter. If you don't know, we're doing a thing called the morning drop a few days a week. I will be back at you guys tomorrow morning with another morning drop, but you have to be a member in order to be able to comment during the morning drop. So it's something that we really want to do as a perk to the members. As we get into next year, I'm considering, and y'all can tell me in the comment section whether or not you think it'd be dope. I'm considering actually just making that members only completely. And then just like maybe making the video afterwards, everybody can vote. I don't know how I'm gonna do that yet, but I'm considering shutting it down completely. And it's just members, and we have like a members only live, but we'll see how that goes. If we get a big enough community, I definitely will. Anyway, but yeah, make sure you're a member of the War Report. We'll continue to get y'all that good inside stuff. Membership gifting is a thing you can do from the live chat. If you are a member, you can gift a membership, and then the first month of that membership will be on you, and they'll be able to experience the joys of being a part of the War Report Green Name Gang. So we appreciate all of y'all for doing that. Just like we do every Sunday, we're giving something away sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. It's going to be a mug this time. Again, we are giving you a receptacle to be able to bottle all your tears, and you can pour that in and it will come back out as happiness. Results may vary, but you can hashtag get your weight up right now in the live chat to be a part of this drawing that we'll be doing here in just a minute. And it's going to be free, courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Head over to GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. And if you got a restaurant and you need to get the logistics down, that's the place to go. Trust me, restaurant logistics is not easy. So having a professional to help you is important.
Guys, before because a lot of people are interested in coordinator assistant talk, but I do have two people I want to discuss who are former Mississippi State Bulldogs. The first one, James Barnett asks, what's up with Ra Thomas, who actually came and visited last week? What's up with him, guys? What are you hearing?
Mixed reports depend on who you ask. People in Georgia circles are convinced he's going to Georgia. People in Auburn circles are convinced that he's coming here. Ra Thomas is probably the only person who knows the actual answer to that.
Right. And you would assume, and I hate to make this assumption, but at this point in time, Georgia could be on the cusp of being the first back-to-back national championship in 10 years. And they've got everything working. They unloaded defensive talent and reloaded. You would assume that Georgia has an advantage. I heard Georgia as soon as he jumped in the portal, like before he took a visit anywhere. And that means some of that stuff is predetermined. Absolutely. They talk to people, coaches. We talk about that all the time. So we may be working uphill as far as getting him committed. And there's a lot to be attractive. We're a more attractive stop now than we were last year, 2 years ago, or even 3 or 4 years ago. So maybe we're making the decision that was predetermined a little more difficult. Who knows? So unlike with most high school recruiting, though, those crystal balls don't mean much. Like you can assume some things, but I think there is probably, which is crazy, like high school is like 2 years of recruiting, right? And then these transfers, it's like, man, I'm getting the portal. You got like a week.
Unless you had a relationship with them when they were recruited initially.
Right.
Yeah, you have a very short window to make this person feel like that's my next destination.
Right. So we'll see what the staff can do. Hopefully it works. But again, like what Ike said before, I'm not worried. Wide receiver is the least of my concerns as far as our position groups here. It's not that we couldn't use more talent. I'm sure we have some more developmental players that are going to start flashing next year. Like we talked about, all the freshmen from last class looked good when they got on the field. We've got a couple of guys in Coy Moore who stands to do more in a better passing offense. So I'm not worried about about wide receiver. Offensive line, though. Offensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not against adding more bodies to the wide receiver room. I still think that we have yet to tap into the talent level in that room just because we couldn't get in the ball. So Hugh Freeze figures out a way to get these guys the ball. We can figure out what we can do. And if we do need some bodies in the future, I know that they intend to upgrade the talent level of that position, as they should, but we still don't know what we've got currently. So I'm excited about seeing that for once. Also, let's talk about Dylan Johnson, who was actually offered recently by this Auburn coaching staff. He was a running back from Mississippi State. I think he ran a little bit under 500 yards in the season, but he was very effective coming out of the backfield catching. And that's something that would make him appealing, especially in an offense like this. Thoughts on Dylan Johnson? Because again, like the wide receiver room, this is the running back room is another position group that's pretty good already, especially when you consider who we have coming in from high school, Jarquez Hunter, as well as what's our freshman running back that we Austin. We got 3 guys already right there, especially the kid out of Montgomery who's committed and coming in as well, Jeremiah Cobb. So thoughts on this? Is this the coaching staff anticipating that Tank doesn't return? Tank has yet to announce what he's going to do. Our thoughts on this offering of this running back?
I mean, I think it's interesting because even with the offer, I don't mind it. It's because, we did lose Ingram to the portal, right? So It's basically a backfill for him. But I think it'd be interesting to know what the pitch was to Dylan Johnson to say, hey, yeah, come be at Auburn, because it is a room that's going to be full of guys already. And so are they thinking, yeah, we're going to try to redshirt Jeremiah Cobb and, try to bring in somebody with some experience? And then, to your thoughts about, does that signal that Tank Bigsby is leaning closer towards going to the NFL, so they want to have the room full? I don't know. I don't know what any of that means. But I think it's more so interesting that if Dylan is considering coming to Auburn, what he feels like his role is going to be on this offense, or if he's just like, yeah, I know y'all haven't seen me run a lot, but I'm actually better than everybody y'all got in the room, and I'll just look to prove it when I get in there. I think that's going to be very interesting. Other than just the appeal of a more wide open offense that we'd be running this next season, that is going to have still a heavy run component. So I don't know. I think it's interesting to say the least.
Another receiver, Cohen is asking here, what about Dante Thornton, the 6'5" wide receiver transfer from Oregon? I believe he was expected to be on campus this weekend on a visit. So haven't heard much about how that visit went. I'm pretty sure more details will come out later, but this is a prototypical Hugh Freeze wide receiver, at least based on what we saw when he was at Ole Miss. So thoughts on Dante Thornton?
I haven't watched this game. I don't know. I like to mock Oregon during the regular season, but I didn't watch Oregon during the regular season. So I have no idea if he's good or not. I know that production is a great indicator, but I also know that out there in the Pac-12, and I made this statement personally, I don't put much stock in what went on offensively in the Pac-12 because those defenses were terrible. I don't think Caleb Williams should have won the Heisman more than Bo Nix or Michael Penix because all those dudes were just slinging it all over the place. So if you're a great wide receiver out there, okay, let's just come down here. 6'5", great. If you're 6'5", you can move, a big wingspan. Your catch radius is outstanding, and that's going to make it easier for the quarterback, and that's always a good thing. But I personally have no opinion on what he can or cannot do. Hopefully the coaches, though, you got to assume, man, look, the coaches know what they're looking at, that they can take some things out of 50-point games every other week to say, hey, look at these specifics. Look at how he's using his body here. Look at how he's using his hands here. This is a guy we need. So I'm like Joe Kyle said earlier, let's give it to the coaches. Let's let them do what they do. And then really that first year is going to be what determines how well did you hit on the guys that you brought in for immediate transfer. That's something that we can evaluate year one. You brought these guys in to contribute. How well did they do? And we've got some time to figure out if they know what they're doing or not.
Imani Smoot, appreciate you, man. The super chat here says Gus chose Tyler McQueen over Lamar Jackson. Shake my head.
What's crazy was I went to a presser, the first football presser of the year. It was in August, and JG Tate, good friend of the show, and I said he was talking about guys he saw in person and how impressive they were, and how recruiting Nick Marshall, that Tyreek Hill actually played on the same team, the same JUCO team, and that he was visible. I was like, man, we didn't try to get Tyreek Hill. I don't know if he was that same player in college or not, but
he was always that fast. I know that for sure.
Yeah. So they were saying that honestly, man, Lamar Jackson didn't look as special as he ended up looking in high school. In high school, he did not look like he looked in college. But I don't care. I'm not gonna let that go. I'm never gonna let it go. You could have had Lamar Jackson.
I don't know about that, because I heard stories of guys who went to, like, how they have those camps, right, with high school recruits, and there's guys who tell stories about like the quiet confidence Lamar Jackson has now. He's always had. Like, I was watching this one special, and the guy was talking about how essentially they were on the sidelines talking before, like they just kind of rotate players in and out when they're getting ready to do like the scrimmage drills or whatever. Lamar Jackson was like, I'm finna go in there and score real quick. And then he got out there and scored, and everybody was like, it's like when he just kind of walked into rooms, people were like, oh, it's something special about him. Other players could identify that about Lamar Jackson when they were playing alongside him in those camps, and that was their first time meeting him.
Right.
So I don't know. If they could see it.
I'm not giving leeway, because I think that you just that athleticism. I saw some clips of him in high school, and he was always that athletic.
Yeah,
I think,
that's why I don't know about that, cuz I don't know about somebody saying he wasn't like he was like that in high school, bro.
And I think were people projecting him also for other positions, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people wanted him to
school?
play wide receiver because they saw
and
that.
I think
So,
that may have been a big part of it.
and this is where I get frustrated with this. Like, I understand Lamar Jackson's still not the most accurate thrower of the football out there. Like, I'm not trying to make him into being Tom Brady, right?
Right.
But what you lose in this, you pick up in spades over here. You have to be able to recognize there's a difference between being the best passer in the world and being special at the position. And Lamar Jackson's just special at the position.
Right.
Josh Allen is another guy who, like, nobody thought Josh Allen was going to be the dude he is out here, MVP candidate type of quarterback, because they saw him throw the ball and they were like, he's okay. But you have to recognize there's some guys that are just special, bro. Like, and there's just nothing. You can't look at their completion percentages and encapsulate them as a player to that.
Right.
And you have to have, and I think the more disappointing part about that is Gus Malzahn had the offense that would have let him be special in that way.
It would have unlocked Lamar Jackson for sure.
Yeah. And so now, thankfully for Lamar Jackson, he went somewhere with a coach who was going to develop his passing ability, and that's what allowed him to be the MVP caliber guy. Yeah. So ultimately, that worked out better for him in that situation.
Yes, it did.
But he would have been that guy in a Gus Malzahn system. I'm sure of it, because I saw Nick Marshall, and I think that Lamar Jackson, I ain't gonna say he's better than Nick. Well, yeah, he's better than Nick Marshall. Like, Nick Marshall was like different, but like Nick Marshall's like a straight line runner. He just gets past people. Lamar was he's just freaky, bro.
Yeah, man.
And you just can't replace that kind of thing. You can't just substitute that in for Tyler Quinn. Like, that ain't how that works. That's not how that works.
Oh man. It always makes me sad.
That hurt. Yeah, that hurts. Like, because
it was right there. It's not like we had to beat out Bama or Oregon at the time for him. Like, no, he wanted a quarterback offer from Auburn. He had camped here. If we had offered him and made him a priority, he would have came over Louisville. All we had to do was say, "Hey, I like what you're doing at quarterback. We'll fix the rest. We'll work on the rest when you get here. Here's an offer. Give it to him late junior year. He's here." And then Gus is probably still here too, honestly. To tell you the truth.
It hurts. All right. Stuart Donald says, is it possible that Harsin shied away from legacies either to change culture or to avoid a repeat of the Bo Nix issues?
I mean, I think it's possible. I don't think it's smart, right? Like, I don't think that you just automatically lump somebody in the category of they're going to repeat the same issues just because they had a family member that played at Auburn. You know, I mean, listen, I get it. It's difficult to not feel like you think about, look how many legacies he had to deal with during his time here. He had Kayla Newton. He had
Carlson.
Yeah, he had the Carlson brother, and then he had Bo Nix, all of which somehow made their way into playing time the entire time that they were here. So I don't know. Maybe he did have this like, well, I don't want to upset anybody. I mean, he ain't feel that way about Derek
Shed
Brown.
Too.
Shed. I forgot about Shed.
Yeah.
He ain't feel that way about Derek Brown, little brother, though. He ain't never seen it.
Yeah.
No, he did not.
So I don't know. Again, it just, all legacies aren't made the same, because we just named 4 of them, but then you go look at the young Cameron Brown, and Cameron Brown ain't sniff playing time. So
Lawrence Robinson says Deshaun Watson wanted to come to Auburn too.
Man, we're gonna have to stop bringing up people
this is painful
who could have been special at Auburn.
This is painful.
You know what? I think some of that though was we just got out recruited for him. Because I know he was going to the Cam 7-on-7 camps in Atlanta, and then Cam was trying to push him to Auburn at the time, but Clemson they were pushing at that time. They were turning into a much better program. So.
For sure. Stephen Finch mentioned Colton just flipped. Let's go. Yes, we definitely covered him, as well as the offensive tackle who flipped from. Who did he flip from?
Michigan State.
Mm-hmm. That's Colton. The other kid who flipped, I think he was out of Texas Tech.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys, let's talk because a lot of people are asking about coordinators. Brad Browning says any validity to the Philip Montgomery smoke. Now, I heard this being talked about. I have no clue, but you remember Philip Montgomery? I think he was a QB coach at Baylor.
Yeah, I don't know of anything about Philip Montgomery. I hadn't even heard this. This is the first time I actually heard this, so I don't know.
I heard some people reporting about it. I don't know any much validity to it because again, these assistants and coordinators, they've been kept close to the vest of Hugh Freeze, and I think some stuff has leaked out, but I don't know if there's much validity or smoke to it at all. So we will definitely keep you covered as we know. Corey Weber says Tony Gibson, and we had a graphic for him last week, but we didn't really get to him. Tony Gibson is the NC State defensive coordinator, also someone who's been talked up for this position. Ike, you like this guy?
Yeah, I think he's talented.
I think he's put up some good defenses at NC State. Does he run do you know what he runs? Is it a 3-3-5 as well?
I actually don't know the answer to that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious what he runs. Marion Thomas says, what do you guys think about this dual defensive coordinator noise? Because I believe Crime Dog is a co.
Yeah, when he announced, he actually changed it on his Twitter handle. It's a co-defensive coordinator and secondary coach. So that was a part of the pitch, obviously, to get him here. I don't. Whoever you're going to get has to be okay with that. So it has to have happened to some extent, and maybe that's the holdup. I don't know. When you're getting somebody from the NFL to come down, so here's what I wonder: are you saying that you're going to take a hit on pay because you're co-defensive coordinator, or does it change what you're responsible for in that? Okay, you're going to decide the scheme, but what's Wes McGriff's contribution to the scheme or to the game planning? Like, I wonder how they split that up, and if that turns some guys off. Say, hey, I needed to get McGriff on my staff. I promised him co-defensive coordinator. Here are the responsibilities that he really wants, and I really want him to have them. Are you okay with that? And if the other person's like, nah, not really, then you lose out on the candidate potentially. I wonder if that's some of the holdup. I wonder if that was already decided. Then do you have a DC right now? I don't know. I don't know what the thinking there is. Wes McGriff has definitely been a seasoned secondary coach. Maybe he could have gone anywhere to be a secondary coach, but the thing that gets him here is you promise him co-DC. So that's what we've got. That's what we've got to work with. And I don't think any of this is bad. We won't know if this is good or bad until we put some games together and see how we look on defense. But it's happening. Co-DC is happening.
For sure. Phil Petway says they run a 4-man front with an edge, referring to NC State's defense.
NC State's defense was great.
Yeah, they had some nasty athletes along that defensive front that made them pretty monstrous. So again, it's going to come down to who you have running the stuff, though. Like we like to hype up these coordinators and we like to kill them for getting abused. Oh man, did you see the defense they tried it out there for Like if their name isn't Grantham, then I think that they could do well with talent.
Right.
I just don't, like we can crap on DCs and OCs all we want. Some people they run into buzzsaws of talent. Some people just don't do well, even if they have talent. And I think that it's difficult sometimes. I would be willing to wager the vast majority of people with opinions about any sport, but specifically college sports, don't watch enough college sports to have the opinions they have. There's too many games.
Yeah.
Like y'all look at box scores or things of that nature, and then you make it's like, man, they were ranked number 10 in the nation and Who did they play?
Right.
How big was the talent gap and disparity against the people who they were playing against?
Yeah.
Like there's a lot more things that factor into that besides the box score. And watching the game itself will tell you. So I'll give you guys a for instance. Everybody, again, I'm a big 49ers fan, right? I just watched the 49ers in scoreboard destroy Miami last Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Miami looked bad in that game. I also watched Tua overthrow wide open receivers 4 or 5 times in that game that would have changed the complexion of the game. Not because the 49ers had some great scheme. It's because he was off that day. He threw a pick that he threw it behind the dude. It got tipped. 49ers caught it off the tip. That wasn't because the defensive coordinator was amazing. They didn't scheme up something to get pressure onto it. He was wrapped. Now, he might have been thinking about the pressure. That's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
But the missing wide open throws had a lot to do with what the final outcome was. Because it was guys that was open. He just didn't hit them, or he didn't see them. Right. And so sometimes we give, my point in all of that is sometimes we give too much credit to people who don't deserve the credit. Some of them are just great plays by great defensive players.
Right.
You can't tell me that 49ers defense looks the same if you take Nick Bosa off of it.
Right.
That's not scheme. Nick Bosa is amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody was saying their whole front seven is just unreal. Like San Francisco's front seven is
we the truth up front. I'm not gonna, I ain't gonna hold you. The defensive line is the truth. Like we out there doing things. You know what I'm saying? But this is an Auburn show. We but okay,
but you can say that about Kevin Steele. You can say that about Kevin Steele and
let's
Brown.
Take it back to Auburn. Derek Brown was a guy you had to account for every single defensive snap.
Mm-hmm.
You block him with one guy, good luck. Mm-hmm. Hopefully the play is going the opposite direction.
Right.
So it makes your defense look better because now they got to figure out what to do with this dude who's disrupting every single play. That's not because Kevin Steele's a great defensive coordinator. They did the job in the recruitment of him.
Mm-hmm.
The recruiting landed him in the middle of your defense. And now what's smart is we're going to build around the fact that I know they're going to be trying to chip this dude off the edge. I know that. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this kind of stunt but again, most people don't watch enough football to even know the defensive coordinator did something that was that genius.
Right.
So
the approach, the Kevin Steele's value, I think was shown at its highest against LSU in 2019, not because we had a defensive line that could do that, but you're going to put 6 DBs on the field. Now, up until that point, I had not seen a game where somebody conceded to put 6 DBs on the field. But we're like, you know what? We've got the realest defensive linemen in the conference. Let's just try it. Why not?
Yeah,
because they're pass happy. They got athletes everywhere. We've got athleticism in our secondary. Let's put.
And that's why that works so well. Because to your point, Ike, about a 3-3-5 working is you got some.
You gotta have monsters
up front.
You gotta have them.
That's why that works so well.
It doesn't matter. Like 3-man front, 4-man front. If the guys who are specifically in the middle of that defense get pushed around, I don't care what front you run. It doesn't matter. You're going to be giving up 3-4 yards of play, absent of amazing linebacker talent that's just sniffing out every play and shooting downhill in the gap, right?
Right.
But if in the middle you don't have guys who can just either win one-on-ones or at least get you stalemates where they're not getting any push,
right?
They can scheme around your linebackers. That's fine. Right. I can do that all day. I can just make sure, all right, they're in man coverage right here. We're just going to flare. I'll run a 2 running back set, right? So we're going with 3-3-5. We'll just have 2 running backs in the backfield. I'll make sure I flare one of them out to get somebody out of there. We'll run, some sort of ghost motion or speed motion across to get everybody flowing in one direction. And we're just going to push your nose tackle 3-4 yards back. We're going to get 3-4 yards a clip running the ball. Mm-hmm. I can do that all day.
Yeah.
That's how Florida, with no run game and Kyle Trask as the quarterback, was able to put up so many yards. Dan Mullen was like, all right, cool. We're just going to scheme around the fact that y'all have better athletes in this area because we're just going to make you move a little bit and get leverage. And then we got Kyle Pitts over here on the outside and Kadarius Toney. That's fine. No problem. We'll just throw it for 4 yards instead of running it. Cool.
Yeah, man. The true test of whether or not anybody is great at what they do is if they can do it when you don't have a clear, transcendent talent in a position to throw things off. If you give anybody one guy who can do something so amazing that he can shift the whole game plan, then I don't know if you're good at what you do until you do it the next year, and the next year when he's gone, and the next year when you got a different guy who's good at in one way, but he's not Derek Brown. Derek Brown. Interior rush from a defensive lineman is not common. Like, is the quarterback in danger from the defensive lineman when the ball snapped? Then the guy's unreal. That is not common. Like, that's why you have edge rushers who just come in on 3rd and long to get the quarterback down, because that's when you expect it to happen. You expect the quarterback to hold the ball behind take 5-step drops. Derrick Brown, what he could do was not common. So it's really good. Again, we gave Kevin Steele his props for being able to make the decision to go with the 3-2-6, but also 2020, when Derrick Brown and Marlon Davidson left, we were getting just run
Gashed.
on.
Yeah.
It was
That
was
Tennessee
not
game actually
good.
made me cry a little bit. Like, we won that game because Garantano was terrible, but
Yeah.
they made the Tennessee rush offense look
They
like
looked amazing.
I was just like, yo,
They
man,
looked
what is
amazing.
going on, bro? If
They
it
looked
wasn't for
amazing.
the fact that Jared Garantano was absolutely
They should have won that
premium
game.
cheeks. Premium cheeks.
Premium cheeks. That's
Yeah,
crazy.
bro. Like, he was like he was
you're not wrong, but sheesh.
Yeah. Like, he could have, like, Jared Garantano could have been on the cover of a magazine. His cheeks were he was the most high quality cheeks available, bro. Like, it just was amazing.
Moving right along. Don L says, has Charles Kelly officially signed the contract yet? As of Friday, he still hasn't signed. I haven't heard that he has.
No,
the noise
I'm
was
sure that, I'm sure that we would know if he signed it officially, but no, I haven't heard it. What were you gonna say? Be my bad.
Yeah, he got well, I don't know if it wasn't announced formally by Colorado, but Dion had tagged him as the DC, and Charles was like, okay, cool. I just I'm gonna get right back with you. Right back with you. Just let me talk to my wife. And what he's doing is texting all his Auburn people like, listen, y'all sure? Are you sure? I'd love to come back. I'd love to come back. Just no, I'm Dion. I'm here. I'm just gonna make this text real quick. So apparently he's touring a little bit. Maybe Charles Kelly is like a second, third choice, and we're really waiting on Chris Kiffin. That's really the only thing I could think would be the holdup at this point. Because if you've got a Charles Kelly, if that's your number one, and he's like, listen, are y'all sure? Because I want to come, then you'd hire him. It would be simple. So that means that we've got to be waiting on somebody else. And again, you leave it up to the head coach and the administration to make these decisions, to know that it's okay to wait on your number one because that's your number one. That's a draft thing a lot of people do. Like, no matter what, this guy's our number one. If we can get this guy, we get him. We don't change. We don't trade down. We wait, and we're going to see our guy come to us. If he's gone, then we go somewhere else. You wait until that guy says, absolutely not. I'm staying in the NFL. I'm not coming to Auburn. Cool. Now you move down your list. But apparently we haven't been told no that way, so we're still in it for him.
Yeah. And quiet as kept, Kiffin was a pretty good recruiter when he was at Ole Miss, working under Freeze. So he was actually in for some of those big recruits that they had. So
yeah,
I'm not sure how he would be as a coordinator, but as a recruiter, he did work when he was at Ole Miss with under Freeze. So guys, good conversation. Let's get into our drawing. We're giving away a mug courtesy of GWT2 Energy Consulting Services. Drop the hashtag. Hopefully you've done it already to enter the win. We're not waiting around. We're going to pull it. Take it away, Ike. How many is that?
It's none, because I spelled the word wrong on my thing. Lord have mercy.
Kuwait up.
Yeah. Get
Kuwait up.
That sounds blasphemous. I have never done that before in the history of the War Report.
Well, there's time. There's time. All right. Don't change your spelling. Ike just has to change his. You see it there. Hashtag get your weight up.
Yeah, go ahead and enter again, because it didn't capture any of them entries from before. I have 15 right now, and I know more than 15 people entered. So this is the first time ever we know for sure whoever wins this thing is here.
For sure. For sure. Do we want to go ahead and move on to another segment while that number builds up? Or you want to pull?
We'll give them a few minutes.
Okay.
Because it's a little bit of a delay. I give them a few minutes, but we can definitely move on and talk, and then we'll come back.
Well,
my bad, y'all.
Let's talk a little bit of hoops. We don't have to stay here long. It was a bit of a disappointing game. Auburn, we knew it was going to be a tough opponent against Memphis. Memphis prevailed over Auburn 82-73. And I was telling Ike before the show, we know Auburn has had some deficiencies. A good team. Auburn's a really good team, but there's some deficiencies in place that's keeping us from being a great team. Part of the game that I watched, Kendrick Davis 8. he ate early and often throughout this game. It was, to me, a big part of why we lost this game. But Ike, your thoughts about what you saw? You're the basketball guy. What did you see in this game, man?
I mean, so it really was like the defense is what let us down in this game. I know there are a lot of people who are down on our guard play because they just nobody so here this is another thing I have a problem with. Like, people see a Kendrick Davis play and they're like, how come we can't have one of them kind of guards? They're just like, every team's not gonna have them. There's not a lot of those guys in the country. Like, let's be clear. There's very few of those guys in the country. So it's going to be difficult. The issue for Auburn in the Memphis game, our defense was not good. From any standpoint, we just did not play good defense. I mean, it manifested itself in things like inability to get blocked shots, but you were seeing guys straight dribble drives to the lane, and they didn't get contested until they were at the rim. You were seeing backdoor cuts happening. You were seeing us get beat down the court in transition on makes, right? It wasn't even just misses. It was sometimes we would make a bucket and they would just advance the ball quickly and get us get down there. They had a really good plan for how they wanted to break our full court pressure to get the ball into a bonus situation on the back end, where they had essentially a secondary break with more guys past the half court line than we had guys back in transition. It just was not a good defensive game. Securing the defensive glass wasn't great. I mean, they out-rebounded us in the first half by like 15 boards. That wasn't all offensive rebounds, but still, they had second chance opportunities in the first half. We limited them in the second half, but what we did do was we rebound the ball and then we turned the ball over in the back court, right? Like, it just was not a good game from Auburn. From just the offense didn't look like it was in sync. Like, if you watched some games, you'd see the passing look really crisp and we were getting it to open play. That wasn't happening consistently in this game. Offensively, we scored 73 points, right? That wasn't, us, Memphis, putting their foot off the gas. That was Auburn actually scoring basketball at a pretty good rate because we hadn't been scoring that well. Yeah. You should be able to score 73 points as Auburn University this season and win every game if you're playing consistent defense like you have been the first 8 games of the season. Scoring 73 and still losing by 9 means you played crap defense against a team. Now, Memphis is a good defensive team. We still put up 73 on them.
Right.
But there's no reason why we should score 73 and still almost lose by double digits. The only reason that that's 9 points is because Wendell hit a shot right at the buzzer that put it down under a double digit situation. It would have been 11.
And the boards too. Memphis was crashing boards on us. Like,
we got absolutely murdered on the boards.
So that doesn't help your case either. Let's go ahead and get to the drawing. Ike, are you ready?
Yeah, let's do this. All right, 77 people now this time. Somebody's going to win a mug, win a mug, win a mug. Sponsored by GWT2 Energy Consulting Services, a War Rapport mug is headed to the household of Eric's Candle Company, LLC. Definitely need your real name when you send that over to us. I don't know who that is, but yeah, definitely appreciate you for being here. Congratulations are in order if you're still here. I would imagine you're still here because, again, you had to have just put this in just a minute ago, and there he is.
Here we go.
Yeah, we see him, sir. Congratulations. We need you to email us. You should already know this by now, but email us at business@thewar.report. We need your physical address and send us your name, unless your name is Eric's Candles Company. Okay, just might be. I don't know, but we need your name, physical address.
I'm gonna name my next kid Ike Jones LLC.
There you go. He really will be a businessman. All right, let's get back to it. Basketball. Some comments here. Hobbies Weagle says, did this game feel eerily similar to the Miami game? Felt like we got beat underneath a lot.
No, it did not actually. And I'll tell you why it didn't feel similar to the Miami game. We were never in that Miami game.
Yeah.
We were getting beat from the, like, Miami jumped out on us early and we didn't even make that close ever. We had the lead a couple of times in this game, and we were at the point of the missed foul call against SEMO when he's going up for that layup and he gets his foot clipped as he's trying to make it. That would have put the game either in 8 or 6, right? We were under double digits at that point in time and would have been creeping close to striking distance if we get that fast break layup. So Miami, it was never like I felt so out of that game watching Miami. I was like, yeah, we're not gonna win this. Super early in that game, I was just like, we're not winning this game. This game, I was like, okay, we can put a run together. We can close it to within . Then we started getting that run in the second half. It was right around the 4-something minute mark. Again, then we had the offensive foul with Wendell trying to go up. He got called for a charge. He made the bucket, but they said he initiated the contact on that. And then you have that SEMO fast break layup. Those two things put the game within like 4 points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, this didn't feel like Miami. Miami, I was like, so what time is this game gonna be over with? Because I gotta go cut the film up of this and post this to because and we didn't. It was Miami felt depressing. This felt it was frustrating, but it wasn't depressing. The Miami game felt like I was drinking a White Claw. It just felt like unrealized dreams and depression.
I was gonna see the cucumber Gatorade.
No. I've been railing on White Claw all day for some reason. I hate White Claw. It's the dumbest drink ever invented. Seltzer water is stupid. Then you add tasteless alcohol to it. It is
stupid.
And that's what you get with White Claw. White Claw is what. Never mind. I was gonna go on a whole other. If you drink White Claw, I apologize for bagging on your terrible taste buds, but it's awful. It's literally one of the most awful drinks ever created.
So, does that mean you don't like it? Just for clarity.
It's not my favorite.
Gotcha.
It's not my favorite.
Right. Fair enough. Anthony Grant says
seltzer water is dumb.
Yeah, I don't get it. I don't get it. Just get a soda if you got to have all that. Anthony Grant says, I'm sorry, but Flanagan makes me cringe when I watch him with the basketball. It's almost like he's lost out there at times, man.
There are times where, like, it was early in the game. It was a super crazy unforced turnover. Like, first half, we are pushing the ball up the court. They throw it to Flanagan. And just for some reason, he took his eye off the ball and it just like goes out of bounds. Like he has those, but then he has those other times where he looks like the Allen Flanagan that everybody, it's the inconsistency in the play that frustrates me with Allen Flanagan.
Yeah.
On the defensive end, though, he's almost always where he's supposed to be, and he's given max effort. He's got the athleticism to make it's offensively that he looks awkward and clumsy sometimes. But then, he puts it together with a nice little step back 3 or something like that, or, a dribble drive into the lane. I want Allen Flanagan. I really want this for all of our guys that play the 1 through 3 to be able to figure out how to make medium range shots at a better clip. The only person who, when they get into the 5 to 10 foot range, and I feel really good about it when they let it go. Well, there's 2 guys, but the guy who I feel the best about it is Jay Will when he's doing the little left-handed hook
thing.
Yeah. That just feels like it's gonna be money every time. Even if he doesn't make it, when he lets it go, I'm like, oh, that's a bucket. And then Wendell, when he gets into his medium range bag, he looks good. But I just want our guys to be able to make those. Like Chance Westry can get that shot whenever. Like he got it easy every time in this game. It was ugly when it came out of his hand, though. Chance Westry can get to that shot whenever he wants to. KD Johnson can get to that shot when he doesn't take it a lot. KD can get to that shot whenever he wants to. He just doesn't take it enough.
Right.
And so that's where I started this with Allen Flanagan. If Allen would figure out how to get that, because he gets to the lane pretty much at will. If he would figure out how to get to that medium range shot and drop that with more proficiency, like the little floaters that he takes in the lane, those are the ones I want to see him, because then he becomes a dangerous scorer. That's the same thing I say about KD. It's either step back 3 or all the way to the lane if he's going to get a bucket. Find something in the middle of that to make you harder to guard.
Right.
He hit a mid-range, and I thought it was a good shot. And then I was like, why don't he do more of that? So that's a good point. Bruce Pearl talked about the fact, he just acknowledged that he didn't do a good job of getting this team prepared. Was it a lot of, and he mentioned effort, preparation. And he said he just got out coached. Do you agree with his where did we just get beat in this game in your opinion, Ike?
I mean, so here's, and I said, so if you guys don't know, we have on the Auburn Express now a basketball pod that I'm doing with Auburn Memes. And he and I talked about this a little bit. I thought it was curious that at no point in time when we were struggling with our on-ball pressure defensive rotation that we didn't even consider switching and going to a zone. Now, we don't play zone hardly ever, but when it feels like guys are missing their responsibilities for like switching and being on the ball, especially with the quick guards that Memphis had, not that Memphis can't shoot, but like force them to do stuff from the outside a little bit more and take away their advantage inside by going to a zone. I think that would have been a good opportunity for us to make sure we kept our shot blockers in the lane instead of getting pulled out top, trying to, guard because they were doing a lot of high ball screens in their offense. So instead of trying to guard that a bunch, we're going to keep all guards out front. If you want to screen, cool, we've got guards out there, but you're going to run them into a shot blocker because that guy's not going to come out of the lane. I think it would have been something maybe we could explore in that way, but Bruce Pearl has really abandoned going to any sort of zone stuff for like the last, I mean, he did it early last season.
I saw it at times last year.
Yeah, but like
he didn't play it long, but
no, once we got to the latter half of the season, you almost didn't see it at all. And I think that maybe it would have helped us to be able to keep our shot blockers in the lane a little bit better had we gone to something like that. I don't know. Again, that's a thought. But it was clear that Penny Hardaway and his staff had a really good strategy for how they wanted to attack us, and they executed it well. And again, it doesn't hurt that you got a guy who could basically just go get a bucket whenever he feels like it.
Right. And to be fair, we might not have that dude. We don't have that dude. I don't think we have that dude this year. We don't have that type of player on the team, but that doesn't mean that we can't be effective at what we are equipped to do. And a lot of this, we were talking about this before we got on, that we seem to be most efficient in the newcomers, seem to slack the most yesterday. And that is, we are less than a third of the way into the season, and you have a lot of guys who are still getting acclimated on defense. The hardest way to get acclimated, honestly, is probably defense. You haven't been, Traore hasn't been playing defense in college very long. He's been taller than everybody his whole life. And even then, he wasn't like a stalwart on defense. He's a mostly offensive player. So these are the lumps that these guys absolutely need to take before they are a much better cohesive unit and better individual defenders and offensive players as well. I don't mind that Westry, his shot looked off last night. They struggled a little bit. What better way to start building the case that you have some work to do than to struggle in these games against talented teams? Penny and Memphis, they aren't ranked. Man, Penny ain't no slouch. Ain't no slouch, man.
Memphis might be the best unranked team in the country. Like they'll be ranked after this next ranking comes out, but they're really good.
Right. And rankings in basketball, absolutely, even more so than football. Early, the first half of the season does not matter at all. I would venture, because you're going to put so many people in the tournament. No, it doesn't matter. Who cares? I don't care. Don't rank basketball early. It does not matter at all. We played a talented team that had some pieces that had been playing together for a minute, and they had an advantage inside, and it was clear. And who we have inside? Well, Broome is not the shot blocker. He's not the defensive presence that Walker Kessler was. We knew that. But he balances it out with offense. But I think last night was a bad game for Broome. I think it was a bad game for Broome, according to how he's played thus far. I didn't see the rebounding that I had seen from him prior and early in the season, and that was a bit of a concern. But it's something I expect when I get new pieces together and you put them against a really good team. It doesn't matter, man. Things are going to change. All of this stuff has to happen for people to figure out what they're not good at, and it makes players more coachable, man. You coach too long, and then it gets hard to change because what you've done has worked for so long. But now I bet they'll be a little more locked in for the next couple practices in the next game after losing this game.
Yeah, and it's not like Broome had a bad stat line. He just didn't take that next step that you would have hoped he would have taken, especially in a game like this where you need someone to get buckets for you, down low. So I think that was the thing.
Frustrated. I'll say he does seem frustrated with the lack of paint touches that he's getting sometimes. Like, I think he's working really hard to establish the position, and they're not getting him the ball. This is something we talked about, I think, maybe before we got on air. A lot of guys struggle with not being the guy. Like it's hard sometimes for guys because you got to think about it. Most of these guys were the best player on their high school team. Somebody like Janai Broom was also the best player on his college team last year. And so he's used to offenses going through him. Like he's going to get a touch every couple of trips. Every couple of trips we're forcing the ball down to Janai Broom and letting him work. That's not how Auburn's offense is working, and it hasn't worked like that in some time. The reason why I think people are frustrated is because we have such a guard-centric offense and we don't have ball-dominant scoring guards. So it makes it difficult to watch when you don't have guys who can just go get a bucket whenever you need to because they're touching the ball every time down the floor. If you're not going to work through Broom, then you've got to figure out a way to make sure that your guards are more proficient with how they're scoring. And we just don't have that right now.
Is it tough for them to get the ball to him as well? It seems as though they're smaller guards at times if they're going against taller guards or getting the ball down low.
I think it's more so like I just like Wendell is good, but it's the wing guards that just they're not good at post entry. Like they just don't do post entry. And that's something, honestly, when you talk about fundamentals of basketball, that a lot of people don't really work on post entry passes, right? Like you work on, situational ball of like how you're going to do when you drive into the lane and being able to look but like just being able to make a simple post entry pass is not something that people focus on fundamentally as they're going through these camps and stuff like that. Because again, the game has changed, right? Like you don't see a lot of dominant post players. So like, why am I working on throwing the ball to the post? I'm gonna be throwing it to a 6'8" dude who's stepping out shooting threes. We're not throwing the ball down to the paint and working inside out. And Broom is a post guy. And so you just don't see in these camps these days guys learning how to feed the post in a proficient way.
Yeah. Imani Smoot says, appreciate the super chat, sir. He says, what I don't understand is we're not a great shooting team, but why can't we play inside out? I know we're a predominant man-to-man defense, but sometimes a zone is the best defense for particular opponents.
Yeah.
A lot of things you can say tonight.
Yeah, same stuff I was just talking about. Playing inside out, I think, is the best way for us to be able to operate. But that does, if you just look at Bruce Pearl's offenses traditionally, that requires a fundamental change in philosophy.
Right.
It requires a fundamental change in the philosophy. Like you can run the flex offense that he has and then go post entry because you get that not a down screen, but you get that cross screen of a big on a guard that's coming around the back end. And then you can establish post position in the middle with your big and just throw it to him right there. I think that that's what we probably should be trying to do more often, is not looking for the flex to hit the guy who's going on the back screen, but looking to do that to get the separation and then throw immediately to the big, either from the top or swing it to the wing and go directly to him in that way. If we do that more often, then we can play out of the post a little bit more. But again, that requires a change in philosophy, because the problem isn't necessarily the post entry. It's what you do after you enter it into the post and have the rest of the offense revolve around that. Because usually what you're looking for with the flex is you're going to hit a guy and that guy's going to go get a bucket, right? But you have to then, with a guy like Janai Broom, he's not like a quick action big. He's okay, I'm going to catch it. I'm going to survey. I'm going to back. I'm going to back. And now everybody else has to figure out what they're doing around that. And there's not really a lot of top screen action in the flex. It's moving without the ball. And that's kind of more instinctive than it is a play. So depending upon how early you are in the clock, that's going to determine whether or not we can kick it. Like it's just a lot. It's a lot to be able to do, because again, it requires a fundamental change in your philosophy of how you attack teams. You've got time to do it in a long basketball season, unlike a football season, but it is going to require you to do something different.
Remember the early 2000s Sacramento Kings when they had C-Webb and Vlade? Like that's what I kind of envision. Like when you say survey, those guys were really good at that.
For sure.
And the offense,
they were great
those
passers.
guys. Yeah. So again, I'm interested to see how they tweak this team to fit the skill set of these guys. Chris Stiff says Broom won't be Kessler. Let's not expect him to be as good as what we saw last year. I think to a degree we know what he can do. He's a little different than Kessler. We just want to see
he's
the
already
offense.
Better offensively though than Kessler was with the ball in his hands. So no, he's not as. Listen, Walker Kessler is
I'm happy he's doing well.
He's different defensive. Like he just has a different feel. Like there are some guys who just their feel for when to jump and how to jump. And, Walker Kessler's, a 7-footer with a long wingspan too. He just understands shot blocking differently than most people
Elite defender.
ever, right? Like he's just not, that's not, you don't just walk across, you don't just stumble on Walker Kessler's defensively all the time, right? So yes, no, you won't get a Walker Kessler probably ever again. But what you do have in Janai Broome is somebody who, in my opinion, is much better with his back to the basket playing basketball than Walker Kessler ever was. Now, I'm not saying Walker Kessler's terrible at it, but I would never expect Auburn to throw the ball into Walker Kessler in the paint and say, okay, go get us a bucket. Right. He was catching lobs. He was getting it off the rebounds. Like he wasn't that kind of Janai Broome. I can expect they're going to throw it to the post, clear it out, let him go to work, go get us a bucket. He just hasn't done that well this show. They're very different players. No, I would never expect him to be Walker Kessler. Yeah.
For sure. Raven Patel says, I was in attendance at the game yesterday. We played soft. We kept looking around for someone to step up, and no one seemed to. I love that we don't ever get frazzled, but we don't play with a sense of urgency.
We didn't. No, we don't. He said we did.
Yeah. We didn't play.
I think that's fair. I think it's fair to say that. And there, I think KD wanted to get into takeover mode, and he was getting frustrated sometimes. Again, the offense doesn't really cater to give him the ball, let him clear out. And everybody kind of wanted to run the offense, and KD was like, man, just give me the ball, right? Like he wanted to go into that mode, and he never really got the opportunity to. But to the point that is being made here, I think that there was a little bit of that. Who is going to be the guy that's going to step up? And we didn't know the answer to that immediately. They haven't figured that out as a team to say, this is our guy that's going to go get a bucket. KD is a bucket getter, but the problem that you're going to have with KD, unlike a Kendrick Davis, is he also knows how to facilitate. If you're going to be like, all right, well, we're not letting Kendrick Davis score, we're going to double team him. Cool, I just kick it to this dude. KD hasn't become that guy yet. KD had a fast break yesterday where Chris Moore was literally sitting under the rim before KD got past the free throw line, where if KD had just like put a little hesitation to draw the defender up, he could have thrown it over the top for a lob. He just went full speed in, double clutch, hit the shot, right? But like that would have been a highlight opportunity to throw a lob to Chris Moore and get everybody else involved in it. That he hasn't figured that part of his game out yet. He had to figure it because he's just in attack mode all the time.
Especially when things are tight, like if we're down.
Or he hasn't figured out how to be a playmaker. That's the words I want to use. He's not a playmaking guard. He's a scoring guard.
Right. And it gets ratcheted up as far as how badly he wants to score. And that's when he loses some control physically. He's just, barreling in there. And that's who KD is. All right. I don't think we have a guy who's going to go, no, I got it. Like, calm down. Pull my guy out. Everybody else calm down. I got it. I don't think we have that guy. I don't know if has Bruce ever had that guy. Jared was amazing though. He could get it anyway.
Yeah, Jared Harper was different because he could shoot the ball so well.
But his inside game, like he could finish in the midst of bigs.
Yeah.
Oh my God, man.
Yeah, Jared
bring
Harper
him back.
Yeah, he was a consummate point guard or scoring guard in this type of. He was perfect for the Bruce Pearl's offense because his ability, his usage rate was always going to be good. He was going to be good with the ball in his hands. You couldn't back off of him because he could shoot. He could get to the rim. He could jump really well for his height.
Yeah.
Like, and be able to finish in the lane. Like he was the pro. If you could like spit out a Bruce Pearl guard, it would be Jared Harper every single time. Single time.
For sure. Lisa Wise, appreciate you hanging out with us and appreciate the super chat. She says we need more consistent free throw shooting across the board. Problem last year and so far this year. Agreed.
Can't shoot, can't free throw shoot.
Agreed.
Yes, this is a problem.
James Stallings says, has anyone watched how awful the Rockets use Smith?
I'm gonna be honest, I don't watch a lot of NBA.
I watch, but the Rockets aren't on TV a lot. Unless you're watching NBA TV and they happen to be on there. But I haven't seen a lot of the Rockets this year. So I know one of you guys may have mentioned that it's a lot of younger guys on that team. So you just have a lot of young guys just trying to find themselves on that team and on that roster. So it's very much a possibility. But yeah, I would like to check out a Rockets game and see how he's looking. Michael says, I thought the Memphis players being allowed to get under our guys and undercut our guys when they went up. The refs let the game get out of hand late, especially on that Chris Moore hit. Thoughts?
I mean, I think part of being a very physical team is doing stuff like this, right? Like you're just going to get into people. It's going to be, I'm going to put a body on a body every single opportunity I can. And some of it's going to be questionable. It's going to be skirting the lines of, was that screen moving? You know, was that like the one box out that Dylan Cardwell, they didn't call over the back on him because the guy was boxing him out, but like
wrapping his legs up.
Yeah, but it's like,
yeah,
that's not really like, he's 7 feet tall, reaching over the top of you. Yes, he's going to be over your back. You didn't jump.
Right.
Like I don't have if I'm going to jump for the rebound and you don't jump, you're just going to continue to push my legs as I jump into the air. How else am I going to be but over your back, right? Like, so that can't be. It's either a no call or a foul on the person who's doing the boxing out there. And so, yeah, like if you're a physical team and you know that you have a disadvantage in some areas, you got to try to do something to get a little chippy and mix it up and frustrate guys and intimidate them in some areas where it's like, all right, I really don't want to have to catch an elbow every time I'm coming down here to the paint, right?
Right.
And I don't feel like Auburn necessarily backed down. I just think that Memphis was coming prepared to fight and Auburn was coming to prepared to play basketball.
Right. Yeah,
for sure. Good show, gentlemen. Ike, tell the people what they need to be doing.
Yeah, man, y'all need to be coming on board with the War Report. We appreciate all of you for spending your Sunday evenings with us. But listen, man, if we could get like let me paint a picture for you. I'm gonna give you my on to victory pitch, right? Because on to victory thing is like strength in numbers, because we have hundreds of thousands of Auburn fans, and if we could get like 50,000, 100,000 of y'all to give this much money, listen, like 1,000 people, we've got 9,000 some subscribers to the War Report. 1,000 people sign up for memberships, man. We could be doing all kind of stuff with the War Report. So we just need more people doing this. And I understand it's hard out here for a pimp when you're trying to make your money for the rent. But yeah, I don't even know. I don't know. Don't ask me to explain why I come up with this random stuff, but it does help us a lot. And we appreciate those of you who have made the commitment to $4 or $6 a month, whichever one works best with your budget. And we're going to try to continue to bring you wonderful content in exchange for that. If you are a member and you want to gift a membership to somebody else, you could do that right now before this live ends from the live chat from a desktop computer. And we appreciate that as well. If you didn't get an opportunity to win something, you could hop over to thewarreport.com and purchase something from us. That helps us a lot to make sure that we can continue to do the business of the War Report, and make sure other free things that you can do is listen to the podcast. That helps us with our numbers tremendously. If you guys just go and download or click the subscribe or whatever you got to do on your podcast app, so you know when we're going to be dropping new stuff. We have pod only content, stuff that you will not hear here on YouTube. I already talked about the ones that I'm doing now with Auburn memes on basketball. So we've got that content going. We got the Amen Corner going. We got Mike Mack and memes going. There are things happening over in the podcast world that you can only hear at the Auburn Express, powered by the War Report. We appreciate all of that support.
Joe Kyle says, thanks, guys. Could have been a dull basketball segment, but you made it entertaining and informative. Thank you, Kyle. Joe Kyle, for definitely being a major supporter of the War Report.
Thank you
for hanging out with us, man. Much appreciations to you. Thanks to you guys for hanging out with us. Before you get out of here, if you haven't done it already, share the video on social media. That is Facebook and Twitter. Smash that like button. Subscribe to our channel if you're new. Also, we're on Instagram as well as Twitter and Facebook at The War Report. We're TW Report on TikTok. That's it for now, guys, but definitely tune into some of these special segments we've been dropping called the Morning Drop. Definitely check it out. Ike will be there hitting you guys with some updates, what happens in between our live shows. So you definitely want to check that out. But until then, enjoy the rest of your weekend. And as always, War Eagle.
War Eagle.